Morning, Soulcon brothers. Hope you are having just a blessed day today. I want to go in and do a fit and fitness type thing again today. Obviously, if you haven't seen me before, my name is Russell Gray. I am the beard, obviously in the bun and the beard. Cody Bobet, the founder of Soulcon, is the bun side of thing. As you can see for me, my hair has fallen off the top of my head and just come down in through my chin. So I've been told that I grow a very nice beard, so appreciate everyone that thinks that. Today I want to go in a little bit different direction. I sort of want to, Soulcon is a men's ministry, so obviously the audience that I'm talking to is men. So I want to give maybe what you might call a PSA, which everyone is going to think this is a public service announcement. And it is a PSA, but the PSA I am talking about is actually going to be prostate specific antigen. So what is that, you say? I am going to talk about prostate cancer today because as a prostate cancer survivor, I think it's a very important thing for us men as we age, and I consider myself fairly young yet. I'll be 55 in a couple weeks. But as we age, it's a very important thing for us to take care of our bodies, not just by exercising and dieting, but by paying attention to those medical things that are specific to men and are known to attack men. So prostate cancer will actually affect 1 in 6 men in our world. So think about it. We got over 7,000 men in the Soulcon community. So that means somewhere in the 12 to 1,300 men out of that 7,000, you are at risk and will get prostate cancer. That's a very sobering fact. There's actually more men. The percentage of men who get prostate cancer is actually higher than the percentage of women who get breast cancer. Not trying to say one is worse or better or anything else than the other. It's just a ratio that is a fact. I had heard once before also that prostate cancer will affect every male if they live long enough. That it's just one of those things that happens. Men who are genetically disposed, if they've had prostate cancer in their family, obviously should be getting checked earlier. So when I say getting checked, what do I specifically mean? First off, let's talk about the PSA, the prostate specific antigen. It is something that you can get, it's taken through a blood test. Very easy to do. Get your PSA taken, and I would suggest that any male over the age of 35 have their PSA checked the next time that they do any sort of blood work. This gives you a baseline so that as you go through life, and you have additional blood work done, you can always ask the doctor to do a PSA check, and they'll be able to tell very quickly if that changes. There's only 2 things in your body that make PSA. Your prostate, number 1, and prostate cancer, number 2. So those 2 things. So when your PSA increases, 1 of 2 things has happened. Your prostate is having some sort of trauma from another form, or prostate cancer is involved and has started to increase your PSA. That's actually how mine was found. I'm actually on a TRT program, which is testosterone replacement therapy, and so I get my blood checked fairly regularly, usually once a quarter. And during one of those routine checks, it was found that my PSA had jumped from down in the 2 level to 6.5. So for me, that was a wake-up call. My urologist told me, "Hey, look, your PSA went up. We need to do a biopsy." So at that point, what happens is, and I'm gonna give you a whole story of what I went through. You may find it uncomfortable a little bit, but I just want you to understand exactly what this journey looks like. And again, this is a little bit more geared towards the older men, but I think it's great for younger men to understand that this is something that they should be dealing with early, and that they will be dealing with as they move forward in life. So Once I found out my PSA had increased, then at that point in time, the urologist is like, we need to do a biopsy on your prostate. So for you men who haven't had your prostate checked yet, or just haven't heard anything about it, the way they have to check your prostate is through what's called a DRE, which is a digital rectal exam. And yes, that's exactly what it is. Uncomfortable as it may be, that is the avenue for them to check your prostate. And prostate is actually a walnut-sized organ that sits lower in your body, under your abdomen, down towards your urinary tract and back through by the lower piece of your colon. So they actually insert a finger through your rectum and feel the prostate. And they can tell very quickly by the hardness of it whether there is issues around it. So in my case, when they went in to do the biopsy, what they do is they actually have a device that they use, and it shoots a needle through transrectally through into your prostate and pulls out core pieces of the prostate, and then those are then sent off to a lab to be viewed and checked for cancer. So they do that. I think I had 12 cores taken, and out of those 12 cores, I think 6 came back with prostate cancer involved in the core to some degree or not. So for me, it was one of those things where, obviously it was a scary moment, but also at the same time, I understood that prostate cancer, and I want all men to understand this, is very curable if caught early. That is a key piece of this, is that, and why I'm doing this video is because if you stay on top of this and you continually check this, your chances of surviving and beating this cancer is high 90s to 100%. I'll give you a little bit more detail about what I went through, but I consider myself at this point 100% cured. There could be some additional complications later, but at this point in time, and I'll go into that a little bit later, I consider myself 100% cured. So sort of jumped around a little bit. I do want to back up just a little bit. I went into the PSA and how that determines that we have it. There's also a fact that there's other signs that generally can point to the fact that you're having prostate issues and or prostate cancer. One of them is difficulty in urination. A lot of guys will notice as they get older that their stream becomes weak. That is a good time to have your prostate checked. Another one is frequency of urination. You'll find that you are going to the bathroom much, much more often. Again, there's something going on in your prostate. The urethra, which comes from your bladder, and X is where the urine exits your body through your penis, goes right through the middle of your prostate. So if there's anything going on in there, it starts to create issues. So difficulty in urination, frequency of urination. Another one is difficulty, frequency, and the inability to completely empty your bladder. So if you feel like you've gone to the restroom and you just feel like you have to go again in 5 minutes, it's really because you're not emptying. Then there can also be, you can get inflammation in it, and sometimes you can feel that externally. In rarer cases, or if prostate cancer or something else is going on and is more significant, you can get blood in your urine and a few other things. So other symptoms other than the PSA check that you should point you towards having something done. So anyway, let's go back to, I had my PSA and I had my biopsy done, came back positive, 6 cores. A couple options that I had were radiation therapy, cryotherapy, which is freezing, a open surgery for a prostatectomy, which is the removal of the prostate, and then there was the robotic assisted Da Vinci surgery where the doctor actually sits at a different console and uses a robot. So I actually went through what was called the Da Vinci surgery, and I did that for a couple reasons. Once again, your prostate being where it sits and the fact that your urethra goes right through the middle of it. It also has nerves and seminal vesicles on either side of it, and those nerves are what are involved in your sexual functions. And so you want to preserve those, obviously, as you can, so that you don't have other complications, such as erectile dysfunction and things like that later in life. The Da Vinci process for me was the most successful in researching it and having what's called a nerve sparing operation. So that's, again, my age. I felt that was very important for me. So that was the road that I went down. Had my surgery, they took the prostate out. Fortunately, the cancer was contained in the prostate. They do take the seminal vesicles when they pull the prostate as well. They were able to spare both the nerve bundles for me, which thank God I was very blessed and appreciative for, based on the fact that, once again, I'm young and I still want to be able to have that ability to make love to my wife and, you know, have God bless our marriage. But I was very much moving forward with all this and just saying, you know, Lord, tell me what I should do. Help me make my decision, and then let's just move forward and get cured. So, had the surgery. Unfortunately, you have to wear a catheter for a week after the surgery, and the reason is because when they take the prostate gland out, they can't remove the urethra piece of that is in there. So they cut the urethra on one side and they cut it on the other, and then they have to reattach the urethra to the bladder neck. And one of the things you may hear about prostate cancer that is another thing to be very knowledgeable about is many guys may have incontinency issues afterwards, and that's because men have the bladder neck is a place to stop the urinary flow, and then the prostate can actually help pinch that as well, and that gives us a better ability to hold our urine. You'll hear with women, obviously, that most women, you know, as they get older and have kids, a lot of times have a problem with bladder control, and that's because they really only have the abdominal floor to stop that for them, unlike the male. Well, once the prostate is gone, men are in that same realm. They only really have that abdominal floor and bladder neck as their holding points, and so it becomes more difficult for the men as well. I'm very blessed in that arena where I didn't and don't have any issues around that. But again, it was, I think, partly due to my fitness level. You know, when I went in for the surgery, one of the things that I had to do was be evaluated for Kegels, which is a tightening of the lower muscles down in your groin. And I will tell you that that was one of the most embarrassing and discomforting things that I've ever had to do in my life, because some young lady basically gave me a DRE and told me that I had to squeeze multiple times so that she could judge the strength of my muscles in my abdominal floor. It's not something I want anyone to have to go through, but from a medical standpoint, it was extremely important to understand where I was from a fitness level, and so I could understand what my outcome was going to be. So I know this is sort of an uncomfortable topic for everyone. I want to be a resource for the Soulcon community, though. If you're experiencing any issues, have any questions, want to talk, please let me know. You can comment in the video, or you can direct message me from Facebook Messenger about any of this stuff. I am more than happy to share my story in even more detail if you would like. I'm more than happy to talk to you about the symptoms. I'm more than happy to talk to you about how as men, we have some specific medical problems and issues that we have to deal with, and that God gives us a community like Soulcon in order to do that. So, let's remember, obviously, Romans 5:3, we can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us develop endurance. I know that this thing, when it hit me, was one of those ones where I'm like, Lord, just give me the strength to move forward and do what I need to do to get through this. And by the grace of God, He did. He gave me the tools in the medical community. He gave me a spirit of survival and a spirit of fitness. And He allowed me to, come through the other side and be able to be what I consider a strong elder male at this point in my life. So I love you guys. I hope this is helpful to, even if it's only helpful to one guy. If one guy sees this and says, man, I needed that information, I'd love to talk to Russell, I'm gonna go get my PSA checked. If one of you finds this helpful, then I think it was the best thing in the world for me to do. So once again, I love you guys. Have a great day. Understand that God loves you. Understand that the Soulcon community is here to be a helping hand, and that we appreciate everybody and everything they do within the community.